Hello everybody, my name is Professor Rich and we're here to talk about learning English in real natural situations. Now, what is the best way to learn a language? I've been teaching for 16 years. I am a language learner. I started learning Spanish, which was my first second language. And I started learning Spanish when I was 27. So I started learning quite late in life, learning languages. And I learnt a lot about learning languages and about teaching languages through that time. And in today's class, today's video, we are going to talk about the ways of learning languages. And we're going to specifically focus on learning by communicating. So welcome to the stream, and without further ado, sorry, a bit of feedback there, clicked it. Of course, always a rough start. How do I always mess up the start? It's like the most important part of the video, but Professor Rich manages to make some serious mistakes every time. So let's start with a little discussion. Why do you want to learn English? If you're joining us live in the chat, then of course you can type over there on PC or down there in mobile devices. And if you're watching this video later, I would love to hear your comments down below. Why do you want to learn English? You can write a comment down below, or just think about your answer right now. Maybe think about it in English. How can you explain in English why you want to learn English? Think about those ideas over there. You've got work, culture, travel, study, and fun. I'm still clipping. I'll move a little bit further away from the mic. I do kind of like the proximity effect though, but still need to work on that. We've got some one-word answers in the chat, like from Sahol Ahmed. Hello, Sahol. Who says, study. Can you give any more details about that? When you say study, do you mean studying languages, or do you mean because you would like to study at an international university in the future? And Manuel makes a very important point here, that knowing the culture, you'll be able to better understand the language at the same time. Language and culture are inextricably linked. Inextricably linked. Inextricably means you can't take them apart. And some people try. Have you heard of international English? That is an attempt to take English culture out of the English language. It isn't going very well. People have tried things like that in the past. You may have heard of a language called Esperanto. Esperanto is basically a rational language which was made to be logical, but nobody speaks it because it's a language without culture. And without culture, it just doesn't work. Culture and language are inextricably linked. Pallavi says, I have to learn English for everything you've mentioned. I like that answer, Pallavi. That's great. Lazybird wants to learn a different perspective. That's excellent. Different ideas, different ways of thinking. And of course, we do know that when you learn another language, it does change the way you think. We know this. This is proven. We know it both in terms of anecdotal evidence. That means that from experience, we can say, yes, that seems to be true. But we also know it from the scientific evidence that also shows that learning a language and speaking a language, you do change. Your personality changes. The way you think changes, particularly when you're speaking your second language. In language learning, we talk about first language and second language. First language is your native language, and second language is any other language that you're learning. So actually you can have many second languages. It's a bit strange, but there you go. Manuel Gordillo says he's tried to learn Esperanto. That's interesting. I didn't realize that, Manuel. Great. So, there are many motivations why people want to learn English. We will come back to this idea. We'll come back to the idea of motivation. As you all know, motivation is key in language learning and in learning anything. And in my methodology, engagement and motivation are crucial. Engagement and motivation. So, let's look at communicative language teaching. CLT, communicative language teaching. You know, communicative language teaching was a buzzword for a long time. Any of you in the chat who remember the 90s and the early 2000s, it was all about communicative language teaching. Everyone's talking about communicative language teaching. But what is it? Have you heard of it? What do you think about it? Where has it gone? Do language academies still advertise this? Communicative language teaching? Is it still the marketing flavor of the day? What happened to communicative language teaching? Sleepwalker, who I think are you a teacher, Sleepwalker? I know we have lots of teachers on this channel. Lots of English teachers come here to talk about teaching and improving their English skills. I think that's very interesting, actually. And so CLT is focused on developing speaking skills, says Sleepwalker. That wouldn't be one of the first things that I mention about CLT, but we could say that it is an effect of CLT. Well, teachers are also learners, Sleepwalker, but okay. As I said, we have a few teachers who come here to learn. And we have, how do you say your name? Laila Znaida. Nazaida? Welcome, Lila. And by the way, anyone who is joining us, it's a great time to smash that like button and hit subscribe. And welcome to the best damn place to learn English on the internet. My name is Professor Rich, and we're talking about communicative language teaching right now. Any other comments? So Zoya has a good answer there. Zoya says, using communication as the basis of teaching English. That's pretty good, Zoya. That's basically it. Or it's very close anyway. So, communicative language teaching is what I do most of the time. Essentially, the basis of communicative language teaching is that communication in English is the means and the objective. So this is how we define this teaching. It's the way you learn and it's what you're learning. It's the way you learn and it is what you're learning. We are doing it right now. Even though you can't speak to me, well, you can speak to me, but I can't hear you. It doesn't matter. We're still doing it now because you're typing in English, you're thinking about English, I'm talking in English, and we are talking about learning English. So this is communicative language teaching. English is the way and the objective, the means and the goal, the method and the target. All right? So that is what communicative language teaching is. Now, what's the alternative? Well, the fancy word for the alternative is called didactic teaching. That's the Latin or the Greek didactic. But colloquially, we call it chalk and talk. So this is the classic style of learning in a classroom. We can call it didactic, which is DIDACTIC, didactic. I think it's Greek word. But colloquially, we call it chalk and talk. You take the chalk, you draw on the board, and the teacher talks. And with chalk and talk in language learning, if you are Spanish speakers and you're learning English, then I explain everything in Spanish. And I explain about English using Spanish, right? That's the classic chalk and talk in language teaching. Oye, chicos, pues vamos. Hoy vamos a aprender algo del inglés, como... My Spanish. Oh, yeah. ¿Sabéis, chicos? ¿Sabéis este pretérito perfecto en inglés? ¿Quién? Roberto, vamos. El pretérito perfecto en inglés. ¿Qué me dices? I don't know what I'm talking about. Something like that. So, learning English but using Spanish to learn it and writing things on the board. Pues el pretérito perfecto es así. El sujeto hay más el... ¿Cómo se llama? Ese have. I have más el participante. I don't know what you say. So that's chalk and talk. It's the didactic method. It's the method often used in schools to teach like maths. It's what you see also in university. And it's quite outdated. So people obviously... they prefer the idea of communicative language teaching. It sounds exciting. How exciting. We speak English and learn English in one. So why prefer communicative language teaching? Really? I mean, what reasons are there? I mean, do you like this? You want to learn like this? Should I do this? What do you guys think? Flavi says, it seems like I'm taking a course to be a teacher. Yeah, why not? We're talking about teaching. Teaching is an interesting subject. Everybody has an interest in education, right? So it's a great topic to talk about in another language. Remember, the number one rule is, are you interested in what we're talking about? And if so, that's it. That's great. I know, participante was not right, Manuel. Manuel, he's teaching me. See, now that's a good example, right? I just tried to speak some Spanish. I tried to communicate, and Manuel's give me some correction. This is authentic communication. So we're actually doing CLT, but in Spanish, and I'm the student. Yes, Anawat made the comment that I was looking for on Chalk and Talk, which is, it's behind the times these days. Or you're looking for this day and age, Anawat. It's behind the times, this day and age. That's the expression. This day and age. Zoya knows a bit about this. Zoya says language is a means of communication, so teachers can't do chalk and talk. Maybe this method attracts the attention of the students. Well, Pallavi, with this method here, chalk and talk, the teacher uses punishments to get the students' attention. So I write on the board, and if you don't pay attention, I say, Oi, Roberto, oye, pues, ¿cómo se llama ese? Presta tu atención. ¿Por qué no me haces caso? Oye. Something like that. Anyway, chalk and talk. Let's go back to communicative language teaching. Communicative language teaching is the exciting one. Really, why? Why do it? Why is this good? Okay, there's loads of reasons. If I just disappear for a second, you can see my myriad of reasons there. Okay. Emphasizes the ability to communicate in real-life situations, utilizes real-life materials and scenarios, tailors lessons to the needs and abilities of students, incorporates reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills seamlessly, exposes learners to cultural... Okay. There's loads of reasons to use communicative language teaching. However, I want to tell you the most important reason, in my opinion. What is the most important reason to use communicative learning for languages, in my opinion? With 16 years of teaching, plus I'm a language learner. Not only Spanish, bit of German. Ich weiß nicht, wo es ist. A bit of Vietnamese. Japang namoy. Bit of Japanese. Nanda korawa. I love languages. So from my experience, this is the most important reason. Communication is motivational. Communication is motivational. It is the number one reason why communicative language teaching is great. It's because communication is motivational, and motivation is the most important thing in learning. Have a look at the sentences there. Can you guess the missing words in the chat? There's 4 words that are missing. Type those in the chat. If you're watching this video later, then you can write those words on a notepad, and also make sure that you smash that like button right now and hit subscribe. Are you listening and not paying attention? Make sure you smash that like button, comment down below, and let me know what you like about these videos. Sonia Butterini has just joined us and is answering the question from the first slide. Hello, Sonia. Now, this is interesting. An old-fashioned style of teaching has a great tradition, but there are really difficult disciplines you can't understand without making the effort alone. Yes, I think that's a good point. And, by the way, I think there are reasons to use didactic teaching sometimes. And actually, I've discussed this at some length on my teaching podcast. That's a podcast for teachers. And that's called ELT Under the Covers. And we recently did a series on didactic teaching. We looked at teachers like Jordan Peterson and people who are very engaging university teachers. Well, Pallavi, I think that depends how many students are in the class. If there are 35 students in the class, it's difficult. If there are 25, it's possible. If there are 16, you can do it. Oh, for sure, you can do it. I think, by the way, in my opinion, 12 students is just a perfect number. I love 12 students. I know it's very low, very unrealistic, difficult in most circumstances, but 12 students is a great number to teach. Well done, Sleepwalker. That's correct. The second one is people want to be understood. Very good. People want to be understood. Oh, has Tetsudo got everything? Express? Not understand, it's understood. But yes, number 1 is express. Well done, Tetsudo. Here, number 3, yes. Not fun. No one got number 4 yet? Oh, Lila says, it creates the need to learn new expressions and vocabulary items to be able to express yourself. Yes, that's it. Do you know what we call that, Lila? We call that the communication gap. So when you're talking to someone, there's a gap, and you want to put your information to them, and you really want them to know. You want them to know. So you need to get over the gap. How do we get over the gap? The gap is like a hole in the ground. We need to get over the gap. You get over the gap with English. You communicate with English. So English is the bridge. It's the bridge between us to communicate. That is a strong motivation. And what you've said there, Lila, goes deeper. It provides a very strong rationale for a type of teaching called TBL. That's task-based learning. And I would love to talk about task-based learning, but not today, because we've got some other topics today. So you can see the answers there. People want to express themselves. People want to be understood. People want to hear others, and people want to share their feelings. They want to do these things. They want to express themselves. They want to be understood. They want to hear others, and they want to share their feelings. So that's my version of why CLT is one of the best, if not the best way to learn languages. Now, all of these other reasons here, these are scientifically established. So these are true, scientifically true statements. But this is the most important, in my opinion. Now, how can we do communication? How can we do CLT right now? How can I teach you using this method now? You can't speak to me. So how do we do it? Well, communication is not only speaking. Communication is not only speaking. We are communicating right now. We are communicating right now. Can you improve your fluency though, let's say? Because expression is important, fluency is important. Can you really improve your fluency just by typing in the chat? Is that possible? What do you think? Comments about this. Shimi? No. Tell me why. Lila says no, you can't. Great. I'm happy to engage on this. Tell me why. The skill of fluency can be separated into fluency in speaking and fluency in writing, but there is also an overlap, which is the fluency in your thinking. All right. That's true. You don't speak when you're chatting. See, I have more sympathy for this. I think this, Zoya's opinion here, is a good one. It makes you think and form an answer. That is the skill of fluency. But okay, maybe we don't have, there's something we don't have, and I agree with that. What are we missing? Because we do have some components. It is useful, but there is something we're missing. It will improve writing only, but speaking will improve fluency. I think it does improve writing, you're right, Shimi, but it does also improve fluency. Now, that's a good point. That's a very good point, Ashley. Ashley says muscle memory. That's true. That is true. So, we don't get our muscle memory. The thing that we miss with text chat is we miss the pronunciation. It's the use of the speech organs, habitual use of speech organs. We don't have that. And that's a shame. Okay, it is a shame. It's kind of like you're playing chess, right? You're thinking about chess and playing chess, but you're not actually playing chess, right? So it's not perfect. It's not perfect, right? But it does, at least it helps your mental, the fluency aspect, the mental aspect of fluency. It does help more than writing an email, more than writing a letter, because here we've got real-time interaction. Now, even though it's not great for fluency, and I admit that, I agree with the comments by Lila and Shimi. I agree it's not, you can't get to be a great speaker in English without speaking English. You need to speak English with people. That is 100% the best thing to do. However, what we're doing here is still communicative language teaching. This is communicative language teaching, even without the speaking. The point of this question was not actually about proving anything about fluency. The point of this question was that we're communicating in English and you had to express your opinion in English. And that is CLT. That is communicative language teaching. Yes, this form will not do a lot for your spoken fluency, but it's still communicative language teaching. It's motivational and it's a good way to learn English. So, communicating in chat is a legitimate way to improve your mental fluency. Mental fluency is your ability to think and form your opinions in English. It's a legitimate way to do that. And there is science for this. There is science for this. Okay? We can refer to the input hypothesis that's happening right now. Comprehensible input. So the first thing you learn when you learn a language should be via comprehensible input hypothesis. The interaction hypothesis. Look at when this research is from 1983. We established this a long time ago. Interaction hypothesis. We are interacting. Output hypothesis. You're not speaking, but you are expressing yourself. Output hypothesis. That was by Merrill Swain, 1985. And then we've got sociocultural theory by Vygotsky. We have the science. Communicating in chat is a legitimate way to improve mental fluency. That's why I do it like this. You can see some other language learning streamers, and it's very like, I'm going to talk and correct and give you ideas and show you grammar and show you present perfect, right? But I really like the interaction. As much interaction as possible. I want to hear your opinion. I want to provoke your opinion. I want to say, what do you think? Tell me. Sorry if pointing is offensive in your language. In English, we can point and it's okay. I know sometimes in some cultures, pointing is not good. I should do like this. What's your opinion? Tell me. Okay. Communicating in chat is a legitimate way to improve mental fluency. Thinking in English. And you might say, Rich, but what about meow? What about pronunciation practice? What about grammar teaching? What about vocabulary learning? What about error correction? What about bananas? What about onions? What about getting a girlfriend? What about all these things, Rich? What about it? Aren't they important? We could learn these with chalk and talk, no? Some of them. Grammar teaching, yes, chalk and talk. Vocabulary learning, yes, chalk and talk. Error correction, yes, chalk and talk. Pronunciation practice, not so much. Not so much. Oh, look at this. I think the best way to study English is to choose several approaches, dependent of your goals. The main question is the proportion of different ways. Absolutely. Always, you want to try different things. Try different things. Try different things. And it's one of the best reasons to have a teacher. By the way, hello, I'm a teacher. Hey, email me, professorrich@gmail.com. I am recruiting students right now, if you want to. £25 per hour is my current rate, but the first 30-minute level test is free. And I have people who come and they do the 30-minute level test, and then that's it. That's fine. I don't mind that, especially for you guys, because you're my support. Okay, I'm happy to do it for you because I get a lot of support from the community. So drop me an email, we'll do a level test, and I will give you some advice about what to do with your English. Having a teacher is very helpful because a teacher can direct you to a new approach or new way that can help with you or help for you. All right. So, there's been a lot of comments in the chat that I agree with. And let's have a look at my next slide here. Here we have it. Here is a summary of my position. Summary of my position. Communicating is number one for language learning. Communicating is number one. Communicating is number one. And obviously, speaking, we don't know any form of communication which is more efficient than speaking. Maybe in the future we'll have brain transfer, but right now, speaking is the most efficient form of communicating. So yes, communicating is best, and spoken communication is the best of the best. Okay, but all right. We have limitations in chat, I know, but we've still got communication. Then next, sub-skill practice. Did anyone spot the mistake? Sub-skill practice is great. What is sub-skill practice? That's like practicing skimming, scanning, parsing, practicing intonation, pronunciation, practicing sentence stress, practicing phonemics, or, e, a, o, ow. Okay, that practice is great. It's great. It's good to do sub-skill practice. Sub-skill practice is a big part of how we should teach, and it is a big part of learning. You do need sub-skill practice. Not only with language learning, if you're doing martial arts, right? Okay, let's say boxing, right? Boxing. You want to become a boxer. So, what's the best thing to do? Well, the best thing to do is to box, right? You have a partner, another person, and you box together. That is the best thing. However, you can't always do that. Sometimes you can't find a partner. Sometimes your partner is too good for you. That happens with speaking as well, right? Like there's someone with very high level of English speaking and your level's too low. And that's very difficult. Same in boxing. If you're not so good at boxing and you have Mike Tyson, right? Then that's difficult. So then we need sub-skill practice. So in boxing, what is sub-skill practice? Well, it's like you practice like bum 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 like that. bum, 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 bum. That's sub-skill practice in boxing. We don't need a partner to do that. We can do it ourselves. And it's the same with language learning. You have sub-skills you can practice. We can practice our pronunciation on our own. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the park tomorrow. I'm going to go to the museum. I'm going to go and see my friends. I'm going to go to the beach. Some pronunciation practice. Gonna. I'm going to go. Everyone, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to go to the beach. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go this weekend? What are you going to do this summer? So, pronunciation drills, you can do them on your own. That's sub-skill practice. Sub-skill practice is number 2. And then number 3, study. It's bronze. Bronze position. Study is good. Study is good. All right? Study is good. It's bronze, number 3, but it's still good. Doing nothing is 1,653. So number 3, study is good. Studying grammar, studying vocabulary, studying whatever. You get a book, do some exercises in English, whatever. It's good. It's useful. It helps a lot with our meta skills, our metacognition, our editing skills, our self-monitoring. You monitor yourself as you speak and you listen for grammar errors. Study helps with that. It does. It's not as good as communication. It's not as good as sub-skill practice, but it's good. Okay? And I just want to say, by the way, this is all my perspective. I actually don't think the science necessarily supports this, but it's my anecdotal perspective. I think you can argue that the science supports this, but it's still a little controversial. Finally, that. What's that? Horses for courses. All right, we need someone very intelligent. Intelligent's not the right word. We need someone with great idiomatic language. What is horses for courses? Let me have a look at some of the comments that I've missed. Thank you, Julia, for encouraging Pallavi. I think young people often have anxiety about these things, social situations. They're afraid of making mistakes. They're afraid of the social pressure. It's very difficult, isn't it? I agree with Sleepwalker, and I also do agree with Lila, not just at the beginning. Absolutely. I think it's always communication. I mean, let's be honest, there's no roof. There is no roof to your communication. You can always get better. Because really, if you think you have maxed out your communication, well, you should be a billionaire. Because if you have the best communication, you should be a billionaire. Communication is a skill you can just keep improving. Shadowboxing. It's shadowboxing, Manuel. We call it shadowboxing. So Zoya says, I think studying is very important because if you have a good basis and no grammar knowledge, you can hardly speak. Okay, so let me talk about this, Sawyer. One, studying is very important. It's good, right? And it's very important, I agree. But your subordinate clause, because if you don't have a good basis and no grammar knowledge, you can hardly speak, I disagree. I'm sorry. It's not true. In my opinion. I think you can speak without having any grammar knowledge. But what is grammar knowledge? That's the question. Because people disagree about what grammar knowledge is. And if you give me someone who doesn't speak any English and give me 4 classes, 90 minutes a class. And when we are finished, they will speak some basic English. Okay? They will say some things. But I won't teach any grammar. However, I think some people will look at that and say, oh, you do teach them grammar. Well, what is your perspective? I will teach them like, I wanna, and then a verb, or I'm gonna, and then a verb. Things like that. It depends on what you call grammar. But traditional grammar, I don't think you need it, but I do think it's useful. Did anyone give Horses for Courses a good go? Sagar Singh Rawal says, what's sub-skill practice? I did try to demonstrate that, Sagar, sub-skill practice. So sub-skill practice is when you practice a small skill of English. So in English, broadly speaking, we say there's 4 skills. We've got speaking, listening, reading, writing. The 4 big skills of English. Some people, some very clever people, also talk about grammaring. Google that, grammaring, English teaching. You'll get some interesting articles. So some people say 5, some people say 4. Now, a sub-skill is a skill smaller than these 4 skills. So instead of speaking, we have the sub-skill of speaking fluency, parsing, pronunciation, intonation, sentence stress. These are like sub-skills. So skills, smaller skills within the big skills. And sub-skill practice means you're practicing those sub-skills. That's almost certainly not going to happen, Anawat, but thank you very much for that. We will hit 10K about August, I think. July or August. I think we'll hit 10K by then. Fingers crossed for that. If we hit 100K by the end of the year, whew, finally. Oh, when did I start this channel, folks? What's the oldest video on this channel? 2009? I had a big break. It was a mistake for the channel. It was a mistake. Anyway, we are where we are and we're happy. That's a very interesting perspective, Tetsuro. I think you can use this expression to mean that. That's true. People who have a lot of grammar knowledge and vocabulary but even do not speak English. Yeah. I've seen this a lot. I've seen people with perfect grammar. They know everything. They know cleft sentences. They know adverbials with inversion. They know mixed conditional third, second, right? But then you try to speak to them and you, like, honestly. I had a student this year, like last month, actually. And they could do third conditional, no problem. They knew all about third conditional, second conditional, no problem. And I said, okay, let's do a dictation. I'll read some questions and you write the words you hear, right? And I said, number one. And then I said, have you ever gone skydiving? And the student looked like I just spoke Japanese. They're like, "But? Have you ever gone skydiving?" Nothing. It's like I'm not speaking English, right? There wasn't anything. So I slow it down. You ever gone skydiving? Then they get, oh, gone skydiving, great. But what's that at the start? Gone skydiving. So they didn't have that exposure to natural English. Their grammar was amazing. Great grammar. But they really needed that a lot more. And normally people focus too much on study. Study is good, but communication is the best. Brilliant. Thank you. Ranit, this is what I mean. Horses for courses. Different people are suited for different jobs or situations. Horses for courses. Different course, different horse. All right? That's you guys. That's me. Okay? We are all individuals. So, yes, these rules, however, is there a situation when there is a student who needs to study more? Yes, there is. Is there a situation when a student needs to communicate less? Well, depends on your definition, but is there a situation when a student needs to speak less? Yes. There is definitely a situation when a student needs to speak less and listen more. But that is the exception. Horses for courses. As a general rule, this is the way, and this is the exception. We are all individuals. There's different ways of learning. Do you know, let me go full screen. Do you know, when I first started learning Spanish, something I did a lot is something called the audio-linguistic method. I spoke about this a little bit last week. Let me just write that in the chat. The audio-linguistic method. I thought I wrote it in the chat just then, but it seemed to disappear into nothing. Audio-linguistic method. The audio-linguistic method of learning. Now, audiolingualism is very controversial these days. People think it's very old-fashioned. It doesn't have authentic communication. But you know, I did a lot of this, and although it wasn't perfect, right? In fact, it wasn't great. It wasn't the best, sorry, but it was useful because I did this for just 6 months in Spanish without knowing any Spanish. I did this for 6 months, and then I went to Spain, and I could say something. It wasn't brilliant, but it was survival Spanish. It worked for survival Spanish. It was like this, like, perdona, necesito el empadronamiento. Donde, right, like that. And then the local police, like, oye, pues el empadronamiento, pues, oye, pues tienes que ir por allí al ayuntamiento y preguntar, blah, 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 blah. And then I understand nothing. But without this, I had nothing. So, for me, this was a good start. but it's not a great method. But for me, at that time, it was a good start. All right. Next quote. Are you ready? Does anyone know Pablo Picasso? Do you know Pablo Picasso? I'm always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it. What do you guys think about that? Answers in the chat. What do you think? I'm always learning that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it. By the way, I want to just say, to speak to you people who are watching the video later and you still haven't hit subscribe, now is the time to smash that subscribe. We stream live on Wednesdays, 3 p.m. UK, and Saturdays, 1 p.m. UK, every week. I try to read every comment I can. Every comment below the video, I reply. Every comment in the chat, I try to read. It's a little difficult because we have a lot of people in chat now, but I do my best. My emails are open. You can email me. We're connecting, folks. I'm always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it. Do you agree? What do you think? How does this relate to learning English? Pallavi says, I've heard this name, but I don't know about him. He's a Spanish artist. Sleepwalker says, by practicing something, you become good at it, even if you couldn't do it all in the past. There's another expression, a very famous expression in English. Oh, Sitara says, nice to meet you, Prof. Rich. Nice to meet you, Sitara. Smash that like button, hit subscribe. Yeah, we have an expression in English which is fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. You need to get rid of your fears. Manuel is all about this. He loves talking about getting rid of your fears. If you experiment with different things, you'll find a way to learn. Most of the time. Although, here's an interesting analogy for you. Think about the boxing. And then we want to practice boxing. And we go into the ring to practice boxing. And, it's Mike Tyson. And boom, 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 boom. And we're boom, 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 boom. Now, I don't feel so good about boxing. Because that experience, it wasn't good for me. I think that can happen in language learning. And it especially happens if you have a bad partner. Because a good partner won't do that to you. Even if your English is very bad, a good partner will work with you. But you can get a bad partner and then it's boom, 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 boom. That's a bad partner. Bad partner in boxing, bad partner in speaking another language. So you do need to be careful. If you are communicating and your level is low, your English level's low, you need a good partner. If you're boxing and your boxing level's low, you need a good partner. Don't get in the ring with a bad partner because they will bam, bam, bam. And that's not good. Right? So I do agree with that. Pure Care says, I agree on the one hand, on the one hand, on the one hand, on the one hand, on the other hand. Pure Care, repeat after me. On the one hand, I agree. On the other hand, I don't. On the one hand, I agree on the one hand, for creative things, for development. What's this? You can do experiments, but not for disasters. Tell me, what do you mean by disasters? Explain. This is communicative language teaching, by the way. Explain what you mean by disasters. Dimitri, I think. Is this Dimitri? I think Picasso had a great talent that was more than the majority of people in painting, so he can say something like that. For most of us, it's not a good idea. Let me think. I think you have an interesting point. We can talk about it a bit more. A little bit later, though. Not with this quote, because I think you might be right about Picasso. But I want to know, I'm interested in knowing, what do you think about the other quotes? We're going to look at some other quotes in a minute. Oh, that's a spicy. In my opinion, the picture in the screen doesn't show anything what Picasso's learnt about painting. Ouch. If you want to get to advanced level, it takes a lot of studying and learning language advanced. You can get to language. You can get to advanced without study. Now, if you want to pass an exam like IELTS or Cambridge Advanced English, you have to study. Oh yeah. You got to practice speaking, but you got to study. I agree with that. But if you want to be an advanced communicator in English, I would say doing it without study is much more difficult. It's much more difficult than with study, but you can do it without study. It is possible without studying, but it is definitely much more difficult. So I agree that you are crippling yourself if you say, I'm not going to study. That's the wrong approach. Study is good. It's third position, bronze. It's good. Oh, Pallavi, please. I have no idea. I have no idea. No, who knows? Who knows? It's probably about love, romance. And hello, Enrique. How you doing? Let's move on to our next one. We got Einstein. Learning is experience. Everything else is just information. Learning is experience. Everything else is just information. What do you think? By the way, the majority of quotes which are assigned to Einstein have no verifiable source. So I don't know if Einstein really said this. And whenever you see a quote attributed to Einstein, you need to be skeptical because most of them do not have a verifiable source. I can't help you, Pallavi. I'm not an expert in modern art. So I think the whole point of that picture is you have to decide yourself what you think about it. Experiments should not lead to destructive things. Yes, I agree, Pure Care. So don't get in the ring with a bad partner. When you're practicing your speaking, especially early on, you need a good partner. If you're practicing early on and they bum, then get a new partner or get a new teacher. Do not get a teacher who whacks you over the head. And I don't mean literally even. If they literally do it, that's terrible. But if they whack you over the head, bonk, not literally, but in their teaching, don't stay with them. Okay. Let me give you an example. Well, let's pretend I'm talking to Manuel. Manuel. No. Not I is Spanish. Not I is Spanish. I is Spanish. Come on. I am. I'm. That's it. The people. No. The people. What are you doing? The people. That's not right. It's not the people. If you get a teacher like that, no. Get them away. Get a better teacher. Don't get a teacher who whacks you on the head for trying. In learning a language, it's very important that someone encourages you to try. What is experience? Experience is what you do and what you feel and what you see and hear and think and remember. It's your consciousness of everything, Pallavi. Oh yeah, for sure, Shimi. But also you want good friends, not bad friends. Learning is a journey you must experience rather than just looking at a television. Yeah. But even when it's active, it needs to be active in the right way. Practice is better. Practical practice is better than theoretical practice. Theoretical practice is bronze. Practical practice is silver. And then actually doing is gold. Next. Confucius. Confucius is famous for two quotes. What is the sound of one hand clapping? And if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? But here we have another Confucius quote. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. What do you think? I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Now, I want you to do in the chat. Do. Communicate with me now in the chat about that. That is doing. Dimitri says, what about quotes for improvement, trying to always do absolutely new things? I think that you need to have experience to move forward because you may just do all very bad if you're not not talented enough. What about quotes for improvement, trying to always do absolutely new things? I think you need to have experience to move forward because you may just do all very bad if you're not talented enough. I'm not 100% certain, Dimitri, but I think what you're trying to say is you need feedback. Otherwise, you keep doing bad, you do bad, you do bad. This reminds me of a famous quote, which is, if you do something wrong 1,000 times, it won't be right when you do it the last time. Fast and wrong. If you do something fast and wrong 1,000 times, it will be fast and wrong 1,001 times. But if you do it slow and correct 100 times, then you can get faster. You need feedback, Dimitri. And that's why communication's so good, because in communication, you get feedback. For example, you wrote that, and now you're getting feedback. One part of the feedback you're getting is, I didn't 100% understand it. So you know that there's some problem with it. Also, you might notice I corrected enough talented, and I flipped it and I said talented enough. That is also feedback. This is why communication's so good, because you get that feedback. Understanding comes from doing. Doing things yourself is the only way you can master that. Wow. That's a very good question, Pallavi. You hold on to that question, and anytime you see anything like this, always ask that question. Now, what a great question. What a great question. In what context? Wow, that's it. If I taught you that, I'm very proud. If you learned that yourself, I'm also very proud and amazed. That is a brilliant question to ask about anything like this. So thank you for that question. I don't know is the answer, which is a problem. I should know. Really, you shouldn't use quotes like this if you don't know the context, but I don't know the context for this. So it's a really good question. Has anyone read Confucius? I would love to hear what the context is. Brilliant question. Brilliant question. I can't emphasize how good that question is. It's such a good question. Always think about that. What is the context? Context is everything. So what is the context? Everything you see, everything you hear, whenever it's a little thing like that, what is the context? Learning by doing is the best way to have a new skill set of something. It will stick with you forever. Brilliant. And Confucius is a Chinese philosopher. Well, I think actually, I don't think it's right to say that he was Chinese, because it's kind of before. I mean, when was Confucius around? Like 2,500 years ago? China didn't exist. There was no China 2,500 years ago. So is it right to say he was Chinese? I don't know about that. Maybe we have some Asian experts to tell us. Julia says, my answer is yes and no. How about maybe? But the feedback is natural in communication, Dimitri. That's the point. That, for example, you're getting feedback now because you said that and I'm responding, and that makes you realize, hey, what I said worked. He understood it, and now I'm getting some feedback, which is the communication coming at you now. That's what's so great about communication. You get feedback just naturally. Practice makes perfect. Well done with the spelling of practice, Julia. I get it wrong all the time. English people get that wrong all the time. The noun and the verb of practice. It's so annoying. Well, I thought that's a simple question. I'm not going to talk about it anymore, Pallavi. It was a brilliant question. And if you don't understand why, then I would encourage you to think about why. In what context? It's a brilliant question. Hey, nice one, Manuel. No comment, but I like it. First-time experience is the best thing to memorize, and it will root in your memory for a long time. Yeah. Because memories are based on feelings. We also, in language teaching, we call this comes from Stephen Krashen, it's affective depth. And affective means of emotion. So it's how deep is the emotion of your memory, right? And basically, in order to remember things, you need some affective depth. Affective means of emotion. So you need some emotional depth. The more depth of emotion you have, the more you remember. Thank you, Anonymous. That is bang on. And that sounds like a pavia. Do we have a pavia? Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is one of my favorite people from history, and also one of my favorite quotes from this person. We know that this person did say this because there's a video of him saying it. So it's a real quote for once. Really happened. And I know the context. You ready? Bruce Lee. Before I learned the art, a punch was just a punch. After I learned the art... After I learned the art, a punch was no longer a punch. Now that I understand the art, a punch is just a punch. So remember the questions. Do you agree? What do you think? And how does this relate to English? What do you think, folks? Of course, Pavia. It's nice to have you here anyway. Nice to have you here anyway. What do you think, folks? Am I going crazy? How can this possibly relate to English? How can this possibly relate to language learning? Professor Rich has gone mad. Clearly he's gone mad. Bruce Lee, yes, it's true. How does it relate to learning English? Anyone got that? Before I learned the art, a punch was just a punch. After I learned the art, a punch was no longer a punch. What is art according to him? What was that art to him to realise this? Okay, time for the explanation. Time for the explanation. By the way, Zoya, I love that. The more in love you get with English or any other language, everything takes a new meaning. That, in my opinion, that doesn't relate to this, but that is all about engagement, motivation. Amazing. That's just becoming blasé about the whole thing. Lovely English in that comment, by the way, Vitelli, but no, there's something else going on here. I'll talk about it. By getting to know the culture of other people, you can better understand the language you're learning. It becomes not just a study. That's true. That's true. Okay, let me give you my, understanding of this. So, the art. This is context for you, Pallavi. When Bruce Lee says the art, he means Kung Fu. Okay. So Bruce Lee calls the art, that's Kung Fu, right? Before he learnt Kung Fu, he thought a punch, it's just a punch. You just, right? That's a punch. Is that a punch? It's a punch, right? Closed fist, boom, punch. That's it. Then he learnt the art. And what did the art tell him? Well, the art taught him a punch is, you twist your hip, right? You twist your hip back, okay? And you put your hand here. And as you punch in Kung Fu, as you punch, you kind of, right? You make a noise with your mouth as well. And you twist your fist, right? Like this, you twist your fist. So Bruce Lee learnt that from the art. He learnt that to punch, you need to twist your hips and twist this and twist your hand, and you kind of flick your hand at the end, and then you pull your shoulder back and come back, right? You learn all these complicated things about a punch. So then you learn, oh, a punch is not a punch. A punch is not a punch. But then, after many years, you start to understand the art. And then you realize a punch is just a punch. Does that make sense? So, if we think about language learning, let's think about it with English. How does this work with English? Before you learn English, you think it's just, I don't know, let's say saying words. Maybe you think it's just saying and understanding things. Nah, before I learn English, I think it's just saying and understanding things, right? Just speaking. But then after you learn English, you realize it's not just saying and understanding things. You also need to think about sentence stress and intonation and suprasegmental phonemic features and inversion and cleft sentences and facial expressions and blah 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 blah. But then when you understand English, you realize it's just saying and understanding things. That's it. Now, am I saying you can skip this process? No. You can't skip it. You need to go through the beginner, the learner, and the master. You need to be a beginner, and then a learner, and then a master. But when you are a master, this is the final thought. Now I realize. English is just saying and understanding things. That's it, right? Okay. Bit of philosophy there. Let me show you what we've got for homework for today, folks. So, here is the homework for today. Quite a fancy one. Improving English fluency is very challenging for people living in non-English speaking countries. From your experience as a language learner, I'm speaking to you. What advice can you give to new students on how to improve their speaking fluency? You must give at least 2 pieces of advice. Give some steps how to do it. Give a rationale. A rationale. That means a reason as to why it's helpful and how it will help. I want you to record an audio no more than 2.5 minutes. Do not speak from a script. For this one, no script. You can use notes. That's simple notes with keywords, but no script. Send it to me on Discord. What is Discord? If you look below this video, you will see a link to join our chat community. That's Discord. So you send it to me on Discord. And then the deadline, 11th of May, and I'll correct it. I want you to use neutral everyday English. So this is an important message, actually. And this is especially for the people here, because we've got a lot of people here with very fancy English, but I am speaking directly to you. Okay, directly to you folks with really fancy English. Okay, Anawat, Julia, Pavia. I know you always want to use your amazing English, but you know what I want this time? I want you to just bring it down. I want you to talk like you're communicating with an intermediate English learner from Austria. Okay? So they don't speak your language. They only speak English, and it's intermediate English. And they don't understand what it means if you say horses for courses. And they don't understand what it means if you say some other idiom. Okay? They don't understand idioms. So I want it intermediate English. I know that's going to be difficult because you don't want to speak intermediate English. You want to show your advanced English. That's the point. So 2.5 minutes, advice, how to improve English fluency for intermediate learners. And I want your English to be neutral and understandable by intermediate learners. That's your task. Can you do it? Can you do it? It's not easy. It's not easy to bring your English level to something simpler. It's difficult. English teachers have to do that. Like when I teach a beginner class, I can't speak like this. Actually, I do speak like this sometimes because I'm evil teacher. But I need to speak so they understand. And that can be difficult. So let's practice. You don't need to speak slow necessarily. It's okay to speak at a reasonable speed. So intermediate learners can understand about this speed without too much problem. Okay? It's not so difficult to understand about this speed, and more or less this kind of vocabulary is okay for intermediate learners. The way I'm speaking right now. All right? Great. So that's our homework for next week. And now we're on to question time. I will be checking the homework today, so don't panic. Vladimir, Pavia, Pallavi, and everyone else who sent me the homework, Julia, I will correct your writing today, but we're going to do questions first. All right, folks, it's question time. So, put your questions in the chat, and I will do my best to answer all the questions that we get today. And we're starting with Apachu. Apachu says, Sir, which is a better teacher, native or non-native? Oh, Apachu. All right, thanks. Okay. It's very difficult to generalize between native and non-native teachers. However, let's try, because it's a cop-out. What's a cop-out? Do we have any people who know British slang in the chat? What's a cop-out? You can Google if you want. What's a cop-out? A cop-out. So a cop-out, it's informal, UK, and it means avoiding something you should do. That's a cop-out, okay? It's a cop-out not to try, so I'm going to try, and I just want to say, if there's anyone watching who disagrees, remember, this is generalization. I'm just going to generalize to give some answer to this question. All right? So I'm going to try. Let's have a table. And our table will be native, non-native. Okay, let's talk about this. So, native, generally speaking, knows the language perfectly, intuitively. right? Doesn't know the language perfectly, intuitively. That's true. Whether that's a good or bad thing, let's see. But that's true to start with. Next. A native may or may not know how to explain certain parts of the language. And a non-native usually does know how to explain parts of the language because they had to learn it. Okay? So non-native teachers can be better for explaining grammar and things like that. A native teacher may not have experience learning or being a learner of languages. And a non-native has experience of being a learner of languages. Okay? That is 100% true. Okay, great. A native has perfect native pronunciation, but might not speak to a recognized standard. You can be a native, but your pronunciation might not be a recognized standard. That's possible. Like RP. You could have a native from Liverpool, right? Native teacher from Liverpool. All right, lad. Do you want to go down the pub for a few bevies? Did you catch the game, by you? Do you see the game? Do you see the game? You see Liverpool? Do you see that goal? Hey, lad. Hey, lad. Hey, lad. Do you see the goal, lad? Do you see the goal? What a goal. What a goal, lad. I tell you, lad. We should get Gerrard as the next manager. Let's get Gerrard in. Do you see the goal by Mo Salah? Do you see the goal by Salah? What a goal. What a goal by Salah. All right, that's my Liverpool. I can do that because... Do you know where I'm from? Chat. Do you know where I'm from? I'm from near Liverpool. Did you know that? So I can do that joke. Why don't I sound like I'm from Liverpool? Well, one, because I've taught English for 16 years. And if you sound like that when you speak English, some students, they don't like that. Did you see the goal by Gerrard? Okay. Right, so a native speaker has perfect native pronunciation, but might not speak to a recognized standard. Now, non-natives might have, or let's be honest, usually don't have standard pronunciation. Sometimes have atypical pronunciation. So both non-natives and natives can have problems here. However, in general, there's probably more chance I would say that non-native teachers often are more aware of the standard. Did you see that? That was the Liverpool accent coming out. I said aware instead of aware. Because in Liverpool we say her, not hair. Now you'll notice it. It comes out. It comes out. Comes out. That's Liverpool. Comes out. And receive pronunciation, it comes out. Yep, my accent comes out sometimes. Did it again. Sometimes. It's because I did the accent. Now it's in my head. See the goal by Gerrard. It comes out sometimes. Sometimes. Okay, forget it. Whatever. Moving on. Native, non-native. Now, let's talk about teaching. So non-natives, I'm going to be totally honest here. Often, they rest on their laurels of English knowledge and may or may not be good teachers. It's a problem. Now, they don't rest on their laurels of English knowledge, non-natives. However, they still may or may not be good teachers because outside of native style teacher training courses like the Cambridge English CLT, pedagogy often still does not occupy a prime position in teacher training and emphasis. So the unfortunate reality is a lot of non-natives think that their primary job is to understand English with study. They want to study to get more knowledge, more grammar, more vocabulary. And so they don't do the pedagogy, which is a shame. Because in my opinion, where non-natives can really beat natives, right, is the pedagogy. Because that is everything, in my opinion. And there are a lot of native teachers who don't understand pedagogy. Including myself when I started, and even now I'm learning. You learn forever as a teacher about pedagogy. Pedagogy means how to teach. It's the study of teaching, right? But non-natives, they can really beat native teachers with pedagogy. If you can be a good teacher with your pedagogy, you're the best. Now, will you make the most money? I don't know. Because unfortunately, I actually think that academies and language centres are, again, more focused on what you know about English. But you can never beat a native on what you know about English. You can't. Even if you start to understand what is a subordinating clause, what is an antecedent reference? Okay, you can come up with these ridiculous linguistic terms, but that's not useful to people learning English. So it's too much. It's too academic. So you can never beat a native with your knowledge of English, but you can be a better teacher. It's quite easy, actually, because most natives are not good teachers and they rest on their laurels. That means they don't try to get better because they think, oh, I know about English, so I don't need to be a good teacher. And there's loads of people on YouTube like that as well. All right. So that's my generalization breakdown of natives and non-natives. So which one is better, native or non-native teacher? For me, the most important thing is, are they a good teacher? That's the most important. So that's the question to ask. Most important question? Do they know how to teach? That's what I want to know. If you've got a non-native who knows how to teach, communicative language teaching, brilliant. That's it. Lots of natives are bad teachers. Remember that. And don't be sucked in by charisma. Don't be sucked in by charisma. Being charismatic when you're a teacher, it's not that difficult because you are the center of the stage. You have an easy way to show all these things about your personality. So being charismatic on the stage with your 12 students, that's not difficult. Don't be sucked into that. You still need to think, are they really a good teacher or are they just an interesting and nice person? Because you need both, ideally. But this one's really, the teacher's really important. If they're interesting and nice, that's great. But don't be tricked by that. You want this too. Great. Okay, Sleepwalker. Can we use interchangeably, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, all at once, or all at once is used more in the meaning all at the same time? Came out of nowhere. Came all of a sudden. Came all at once. Everything you've said, Sleepwalker, is absolutely correct. I don't really have anything to add. So, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, and all at once can be used interchangeably in some circumstance, and all at once is used more in the meaning of all at the same time, not suddenly. So, yeah, it means all at once is like all at the same time. It has a much more of a sense of all at the same time rather than suddenly. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. You already have the understanding, I think. Exactly what you just said. Excuse me one moment, folks. Right, sir, can you say which vocabularies are C1 and C2? How can we identify them? Well, I mean, that's a nebulous... It's a nebulous question. Prof. Rich answers a vocabulary question by using C1 vocabulary. That's a bit of a nebulous question. It's not a nebulous question. I've misused it. It's a bit of a difficult question. I can only possibly give a somewhat nebulous answer. Okay, there you go. Nebulous is C1 vocabulary. The truth is, Pachu, that there's no definitive list of what is C1 vocabulary. Really, we can only talk about frequency of use. If we had a robotic mind, we could measure the most frequent words. At the end of the day, we more or less have to guess what is C1, what is C2. And by convention, we have an idea of which words are used more, which words we tend to teach at C1 and C2. I would say, as a generalization, at C2, you should focus much more on phrases, and you want to learn like really unusual stuff. But don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun. Okay? Focus on C1 first. Look, inextricably, remember that from the start of class? Inextricably, you can't separate it. That's a great piece of vocabulary, right? It's a great piece of vocabulary. But don't learn that before learning well, actually, no. I take it back. If you want to learn that, learn it. It's a great word. It's wonderful. Okay? It's wonderful. But don't go looking for weird and wonderful words unless you really, really want to. Actually, I take that back as well. Do whatever you want. If you're interested in learning weird and wonderful words, then do it. It's fine. Yeah, there's no definitive list, Pachu. Different institutions like Cambridge English, IELTS, the different exam boards, they have general ideas about vocabulary, which are C1, C2, advanced, this and that and the other. Basically, broadly speaking, it's which are more frequent, which are less frequent, but there's no black and white answer to it. And that's basically it. There's not much more I can say about that. If you give me some vocabulary, I'll be able to say whether it's C1, C2, more or less. but it's not, there's no definitive answer. It's a lot easier to talk about like A1, A2 vocabulary, because that's a much more limited set. You know, when someone says A1, well, I can tell you, well, of course, you know, be, am, is, are, okay, they're B1, you know, and then A2, you know, we can talk about, oh, yes, well, boring, bored, and interested, interesting, you know. We can have much more of an idea when it comes to those simpler levels, but at the later levels, it becomes very kind of mixed up, and, you know, what's your context, what's your perspective? Like, let's say, for example, you have a student who is a designer. Well, at like B1, they'll probably know a lot of design words, which are like C2 words, right? They could easily know design words that are C2 words, right? Like they might know something like monochromatic. Okay, that's a C2 word. But if you're a designer, you might know that with B1 English, because it's in your context. So, you know, what's C1, what's C2? It's not really the right question to ask. But even if I answer it, the point is it's nebulous. What's nebulous? Look up the word nebulous in the dictionary. Let me know if you understand it. All right. The good priest learns until he dies. Nice quote. Don't know the context, but sounds interesting. It's Mujahid. Greetings from Sudan. Hello there, Mujahid. Hey, it sounds like Jamie Carragher. Sounds like Carragher. Is that Carragher? Jamie Carragher? Dormirse en los what did he say? How do you say that? Laureles. Dormirse en los laureles. Can't say it. Difficult. Need to practice. Sub-skill practice. Pronunciation. Repetition. Sub-skill. Second position. Silver medal. Yep. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. When you speak Spanish, do you still think in English first? If not, how do you get rid of it? So, let me try and get into it. You know, the problem is, Takeshi, now I don't get a chance to really practice Spanish. So I can't flip the switch so much. Pero vamos. Yeah. Cuando vivía en España, sí que pensaba en castellano cuando tenía que hablar. Pero ahora, la verdad que me falta la práctica. Así que es difícil. Porque es algo que es como montar la bici. Es algo que puedes recordar si estás en la situación, pero en este momento es muy difícil para mí. Porque tengo más o menos, no tengo contacto con, anyway, me cuesta mucho en este momento hablar español, la verdad, difícil. Yeah, my Spanish, I'm out of practice basically. Right now, there's a lot of English phrase and then quick phrasal translation. So phrase to phrase translation. When I lived in Spain, yeah, I used to think in Spanish while I spoke. And if I went to Spain now, si fuera a España en este momento, creo que me costaría como 6 meses o 3 meses más o menos para acostumbrarme de nuevo a pensar en castellano. Okay, something like that. I think it'd take about 3 months or 6 months living in Spain. And remember, I haven't been to Spain for 7 years. So I've been away from Spain for 7 years, but I'm certain if I went to Spain 3 months, it's back. So it's just like riding a bicycle. Just like riding a bicycle. Well, Manuel says my golden rule is I can understand them. Fair enough. My golden rule is, can they teach? Let's ask a question. Which of those phrases can't replace suddenly? So all at once was the right answer. Yeah, it was. But you misspelled right. That's the wrong right. That is a homogram. No, that is a homonym. So it'll be R-I-G-H-T. I was thinking maybe because all at once has 2 meanings. It seems like all at once is the right answer to me, yeah. It's speaking correct Spanish. ¿Qué me dice Manuel? ¿Qué me dice? Manuel, tengo que cambiar el chip. I think I'm speaking okay, Pachu. I think I'm speaking okay. But I used to be a lot better. It's 7 years. I haven't lived in Spain. Hace 7 años que no vivo en España, ¿sabe? It's been 7 years since I lived in Spain. Así que, me falta la práctica. Therefore, I lack practice. But it comes back. With language learning, it's like riding a bicycle. All right, what if I'm afraid of thinking on the other language because I have a fear of losing my national identity? No way. No way. It's not going to happen. I mean, if you want to lose your national identity, it's going to take you like 30 years. Not 10, not 5, not 1. It's going to take you like 30 years living in the country with total immersion and all kinds of very serious things. It's impossible. Don't you worry about that. A better point, Dimitri, is you could say, well, what about the corruption of my national ideals? Well, yeah, that's going to happen. It's already happening. I mean, if you consider it corruption, then yeah, it's already happening. You can't learn another language without being influenced by the language. Right? Do you know the expression? Famous one, Nietzsche. If you gaze for long into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you. English will affect how you think already. It's already there. Now, is it a corruption or is it an advantage? Because now you can see things from another perspective. You won't ever lose your national identity. You won't lose it. It's basically impossible. Even for people who really want to lose, because there are people, right? There are people who are embarrassed, who hate their nation state. They hate their nationality. They do everything they can to be something else. And after 25, 30 years, you can still tell you're from the United States. Oh, yeah, man. Right? It's really difficult. It's really difficult to lose your national identity. So you don't need to be afraid of that. I lived in Spain for 9 years, right? I lived in Spain for 9 years. Do you want to know, like, if I had a wild guess, talk about me, right? Here I am. Okay, we can't have a man anymore for some reason. Just have a person. Okay, well, there's a man anyway. So there's me, right? What percentage am I British and what percentage am I Spanish? I lived in Spain for 9 years. What do you think? This is what I would say. I would say I'm 98% British, I'm 1% Spanish, and I'm 1%, I don't even know what to say, random East Asian. Because I lived in Vietnam and Japan for 3 years. So, even after 9 years in Spain, I think my Spanish percentage is like 1%. I'm so British. So, it's not going to happen, Dimitri. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you are worried. Maybe some people want to. Oh, thank you, Marta. You're being kind. It's a bit hard when I'm speaking English to come back to Spanish and lessons change both. That's true. And that is something I noticed as well. Again, coming back to the idea of it's just like riding a bicycle. I'll tell you this. My English vocabulary decreased temporarily when I lived in Spain. Actually, decreased is the wrong word. We're going to say it changed. I started to say things in a different way, not the same as people who live in England. I started to say things in a different way. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was very interesting. It's just what happens. The way you say things changes because of everything around you. So yeah, it's interesting that. And that idea of flipping the switch in your head is interesting. Yeah, well, but Manuel, I'm talking about my identity, not my language. But thank you anyway. All right, folks, that seems to be it for questions. So we did have this homework from last time. This was to say you are the resident of a town where a supermarket is proposed to be built. Many locals, including yourself, are opposed to this because of the negative impacts it can have on the community. You decide to write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper to inform the public about the community's objections and the actions you plan to take. So that was homework, and we're going to take a little look at that. So let's move on then. So we're going to start with Vladimir, who sent me both the written text and also handwritten. Amazing. Just going to take a look at his formatting for the handwritten. Okay. Yeah, so this is actually how Vladimir formatted this. So I would tell you, first of all, Vladimir, it's good practice to format this a bit differently. So we want a comma, a new line, okay, and indentation. That's how you write a letter or even a good email, but okay, definitely a letter. And then capital letter to start. Okay, dear editor of no. Okay, none of that. You can say dear editor if you wish. If you know the name, that's even better. But if you don't know the name, dear sir, madam. That's your go-to way of starting a letter that's to anonymous person. Dear sir, madam. As I'm a person who is almost 24/7 at home, comma, I wish to bespoke merchandise food delivery to be more developed and future problems looming to be escaped. All right, let's have a look at that, because it's a very fancy vocabulary, but having a little problem understanding that. I wish to bespoke merchandise food delivery to be more developed and future problems looming to be escaped. Please inform your issue readers that I and people like me from our community don't recognise why our local market network declined the single account customer website connected with several distinct shops and order history with buyer card discounts not saving anymore. I and my friends are not against the building of a new market, different food trading networks, and highly recommend the previous system of integrated markets, websites, and delivery system. Right, okay, I see the point you're making. So Vladimir is arguing, basically, why do we need a new supermarket? What we need is a more effective delivery system for specialized foods and stuff, not a local supermarket, because everyone gets delivery now, and particularly me, because I'm someone who stays at home, says Vladimir. So let's have a look. I wish is a bit of a weird form in English, and it's like a way of expressing that you want to change the present. We don't normally use it for the future. So for I wish, we say, I wish I were rich, which means I wish in the present I were rich. I wish I were taller. I wish it wasn't raining. So you're talking about changing the present. So we're not going to use I wish. We're going to say, I'm more concerned, or I'm more interested in bespoke merchandise. So bespoke is fine without merchandise. Bespoke food delivery to be more developed. No, we're going to say in the development of, and we're even going to make this a bit more fancy and say the further development of bespoke food delivery, comma, and the avoidance of future problems, which hopefully you will discuss further below. Now, this is now a good point to start a new line. Also, good practice with a letter is to say, I am writing to. So we're going to start with that. I am writing in order to express my complaints about the new supermarket. Okay, or about their plans to build a new supermarket. And then we can start with our perspective. As I'm a person who's almost 24/7 at home, I'm more interested in the future development of bespoke food delivery and the avoidance of future problems. Okay. Please inform your issue readers that I and people like me from our community don't recognize why our local supermarket network declined the single account customer website with several distinct district shops. So our local supermarket network declined the single account customer website with buyers accounts are not saving anymore. Okay, here I don't fully understand what you're saying. So I'm just going to reword it in my way. Say our local supermarket, or why plans to build a local supermarket are preferred over the expansion of our online delivery websites. I and my friends, if you start with I and you say and someone else, then I'm going to say me. Me and my friends are not against the building of a new supermarket. Market and supermarket are different things. So a new supermarket of different food trading networks in our yards or near our home. But, right, okay, this is... Let's see. I'm going to just change the format. This is what happens when you're editing like this. So I'm going to make that the new paragraph, and then I'm going to attach that one to it, and then we're going to start a new paragraph here like that. And we will indent as well. Me and my friends are not against the building or in our yards neighborhood. Or different food trading. I don't like this food trading networks. Different grocery suppliers in our neighborhood, comma, or near our home. And then we really need to make this the same sentence. I'll put a semicolon there. However, bit more formal. We are highly recommended. No, not we are highly recommended, but we highly recommend to consider the previous system of integrated market websites and, let's say, bespoke delivery services from the existing local businesses. We additionally, because the sentence got a bit too long, so we start a new sentence. We additionally suggest the hiring of more workers to maintain store websites and the order competition to maintain store websites and the order. I don't know what point you're making with the order composition, so I'm just going to delete it. To maintain the store websites and to make transport logistic management easier. Well done. Great vocabulary with that. Transport logistic management. New paragraph. You know what? I actually don't like the indentation anymore. Prefer it. Oh, I don't know. Is it because of the line breaking? No, it's not. What is it I don't like about this? There's something. Something just looks wrong about the format. Yeah, let's keep it like that. Indent the first one. In fact, sometimes we indent even more. No, I don't like that. Keep it like that. Okay. Me and my friends, blah, 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 blah. We additionally suggest the hiring of more workers to maintain the store websites and to make transport logistic management easier. Brilliant. There are only 2 markets. I don't know if you mean supermarkets or not. I'm going to say shops near my home. Unlike in the other districts, there are more than 5 different market networks. We're ready to send you a collective sign position. I'm pretty sure you mean local shops here, don't you? We are ready to send you a collective sign position supporting the aforementioned, that's a good word for formal letter, the aforementioned suggestions and concerns. We will be glad of any help from your newspaper. Fantastic. I think it'd be good to put here, because I remember now, it's because of the editor, to build a new supermarket in the hopes that your publication will represent the beliefs of local residents on this matter. Damn it. Gotcha. There we go. Looks great now. And we need to finish off. So we're going to finish off with I look forward to reading your report on this subject. I look forward to reading your report on this subject. Yours faithfully, because you put Dear Sir, Madam, Vladimir, or V. Tidov, or whatever your name is. Vladimir. Yeah, normally you'd put like something formal. Mr. Vladimir. Okay, great. All right, there you go. That's my corrections for you, Vladimir. Thank you very much. That will be in the notes, by the way, which you can download. Oh, I forgot that. I forgot about downloading the notes. Not quite sure what you mean, Manuel, to be honest. I quite like the strike through, but do you mean it seems like too critical to use the strike through? Is that what you mean? Notes from today. You can actually jump into those notes right now while I'm editing them if you want, and then you can kind of follow them live while I edit if you want. Anyway, you can download the notes from today's class. Link down below the video and in the chat. 39 likes. Whoa, thank you everybody. Oh, wow. Smash that like button, hit subscribe. 39 likes is the most likes we've ever had before ending the stream. So it's the most live likes, I think. I'm not sure. I don't track this very well, but thank you. Very good. A lot of support. Now then, where are we? That was Vladimir. Moving on. Next we have Julia. Oh, Julia sent me a Word document. Brilliant. Now, question is, how's this going to come through? Boom. Let's see. Okay, let me share the scenario of the construction of a new supermarket near our residential area. It's a concerned resident. Okay, brilliant. So, again, I'm just going to start, just put the heading up here, Julia. So it's Dear Sir, Madam. Same thing, comma, enter. I'm writing in order to express the opinion of myself and local residents on their plans to construct a new supermarket in our local area. So we just start with that. Good practice. And because it's formal, actually, even better to say I am writing. Let me share the scenario of a new... Well, actually, it's not just a scenario, is it? It's actually happening because we're in that. So, okay. As a concerned resident, I believe this project poses a whole slew of significant challenges, okay, for our neighborhood. While I understand... Okay, full stop, new sentence. While I understand the need for economic development... Oh, whoa. On the other side of the coin, it is the early warning signs of the impact. Let me think here. Yeah, so I would drop the on the other side of the coin and just stick with your while I understand the need for economic development, because that's already contrasting. So while I understand the need for economic development, it is the early warning sign of negative impacts. Okay, there are some early warning signs of negative impacts for our community. Seems to us that our future is bleak instead of promising over that project. Bleak is really bad. Is it really that bad? Our future could be bleak. Our future... Let me think about this a minute. I want to hedge it. I want to hedge it. You know, hedging. I want to hedge it like a British person. So we're going to say, it seems to us that our future... Seems to us that it seems to us that there are some bleak possibilities in our future. It seems to us that this project could provoke some bleak possibilities in our future. Instead of being roundly promising. As presented by the local council. Okay, great. Against all odds, it's high time that we express our strong opposition against this project and pump up our emotions. Okay, against all odds, it's high time. It's high time's good. It's high time that we expressed. It's best to use the past with high time. It's high time that we expressed, even though you're talking about the present. Use the past form. It's high time that we expressed our strong opposition to this project and pumped. That's a bit too colloquial, pump up our emotions, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Is this against all odds? I don't really like, because you're saying it's high time and you're saying against all odds, it's high, it doesn't quite work. So I think what you mean is something like, in spite of the strong opposition we face from big business, going on there? It's fine. It is high time that we expressed our strong opposition to this project and, let's say, made our voices heard rather than pumped up our emotions. Because it's a bit too colloquial. Moreover, we have a rude awakening to the fact that a copious amount of key elements such as traffic congestion, environmental impact, noise and pollution bring us negative ramifications along with triggering our widespread outrage. Moreover, we have a rude awakening to the fact that there's a copious amount of key elements. Either you've had it, like we had a rude awakening, but I think actually here what we should say is, moreover, we believe that many residents, like not us, but other residents that don't realize yet, will have a rude awakening to the fact that a copious amount of key elements such as traffic congestion, noise and pollution will bring us negative ramifications down the line. Stop. Along with triggering our widespread outrage. The thing is, we want to trigger widespread outrage now. So if widespread outrage happens after they build their supermarket, it's too late. And I made this sentence to say after we built the supermarket, because I want to say it's not about us having a rude awakening, right? We're already awake. But we're going to say, well, the people who are sleeping at the wheel, they are going to have a rude awakening. They need to know what's going on. So I need you to print this article so all the other residents realize we're going to have problems if we don't oppose this. Plus, their utopian proposal is turned out to be a big disaster and nightmare for us, so to speak. Well, we don't know yet because they haven't built it yet. So I'm just going to rephrase this whole thing. Plus is okay, so we'll keep that. Plus, although their proposal has been presented as utopian, we believe it'll likely turn out to be a huge dystopian nightmare for local residents. Great quote. We are planning to take 2 drastic actions. Don't call your own action drastic. We're planning to take 2 actions against the proposed project, which, because you don't think your action's drastic. You think your action is reasonable. Someone else might say it's drastic, but you say, no. I'm being reasonable. Which affect more or less detrimental repercussions. Which affect more or less detrimental and cause adverse effects following the completion of it. Plan to take 2 drastic actions against which affect more or less detrimental repercussions and cause adverse effects following the completion of it. Which could cause more or less detrimental repercussions, and cause, and already got cause with my edit, adverse effects following the completion of it. If you stay in the country with the situation such as a plethora of red tape, political unrest and double standard, thought is controlled, freedom curtailed and opposition crushed. That's wonderful. If you stay in the country with situations such as a plethora of red tape, and double standard, some great language there as well. But I'm a little bit lost on this bit. If you stay in the country with just that, if you stay in the country. If we do not act in opposition to situations such as plethoras of red tape, political unrest, and double standards, then thought is controlled, freedom curtailed, and opposition will be crushed. Therefore, We shy away from public in order to stave off the simmering conflict with the authorities instead of signing the petition. The other action is a complaint letter being sent to the authority office through our county office to show up. Therefore, we shy away in order to stave off simmering conflict with the authorities, comma. Instead, we will sign a petition. The other action will be to make a complaint letter to send to the authority office, to the local authorities, through our county office to show our petition. Great. And a question for other people in the chat. I'll just round off the letter. I look forward to reading your article. Yours faithfully, J. Patar. Great. Fantastic. All right, let's move on. Pav. Oh, look at this. You want to see how to write a formal letter? We've got it. Yeah, we can see that Pavia has been classically trained. So, Pavia, address, city and postcode, the date. And then the editor, name of newspaper, address, city, postcode. Dear Sir, Madam. Wow. Brilliant. As a concerned resident of your community, comma, not full stop, I wish to express our collective apprehension regarding the proposed supermarket in our town. We need a pronoun here. Many of us... Is that feel? No. Many of us... Not sure. That this detrimentally affects the fabric of our close-knit community. Many of us Is it fear? It's fear. It's misspelt, I think. You misspelt fear. It's that one. F-E-A-R. But well done. Many of us fear, F-E-A-R, that this will detrimentally affect or alter, I think she said alter, the fabric of our close-knit community. Great. Good language. And perfect for this context. The primary concern on the economic impact. The primary concern, I think our primary concern centers on, it's better, primary concern centers on the economic impact of on local businesses. Great. That's good. And actually, I agree. I think that is the primary concern. In my opinion, that would be the primary concern. The displacement of these businesses could lead to a loss of local character and ultimately a closure. A what? A closure? Oh, no, a decrease, sorry. A decrease in consumer choices. Furthermore, the increase in traffic and reluctant noise? Not sure about reluctant noise. The increase in traffic and resultant noise, yes. And pollution will undoubtedly disrupt the tranquility of our town. This shift not only impacts the aesthetic and environmental quality of our area, but also poses health concerns for our residents. To oppose this development, we are organising peaceful demonstrations to publicly display our concerns. These efforts are aimed at encouraging our town council to reconsider the approval of the supermarket, one word. Our commitment is to preserve the unique vibrancy. Nice word. The unique vibrancy of our town. Wow. We invite all concerned citizens to join us in these endeavors. Yours faithfully, got it, Pavia. Bingo. Yep, that's very impressive, Pavia. That is very impressive. Well done. Well done. And we got one more. We got Pallavi. Are you there, Pallavi? She always runs away when we do homework. Correction. Pallavi. Okay. Address. Date, 3rd of May. The editor, Times of India, West Bengal. Great. Subject. That's okay. We can do that. To oppose the construction of building a new supermarket in town. Dear editor, I'm Pallavi, a resident of I am writing to you in order to raise the issue people face in my locality due to the proposed construction of building a new supermarket in town. Wonderful. Okay. I want to emphasize that there are a few schools and institutions. There are a few schools and institutions in our town. So if there will be, don't know about if there will be. It's if there is a supermarket, it could. If there is a supermarket, it could lead to many problems for the people who live there or here, right? So if there is a supermarket, it could lead to many problems could lead to many problems for the people who live here. The problems it can cause, such as students wouldn't. Oh, okay. The problems it can cause are the following. Students would not be able to focus on their lessons because of the noise of vehicles, just vehicles, as well as the air pollution, which is very harmful for people here, or the people here. We will be very glad. Okay, new paragraph here. New paragraph. We would be very glad if you published. We would be very glad if you published this in your newspaper. Through this letter, we want to draw the attention of the government. And got a bit lazy there and put goved. Lastly, I request that you highlight this through your newspaper so that the government will take some action on this matter. I look forward to reading your article. Thank you very much. Yours sincerely, with a capital Y and a comma at the end, Pallavi. Bingo. Well done, Pallavi. Wonderful letter. Ooh. Wonderful letter. All right. Okay, that's it. Yeah, you were super fast, Pallavi. Pallavi said, I'm super fast, right? Yeah, she handed her. I gave those in reverse order. So Pallavi gave her letter first, very quickly. Obviously a task that she liked. Well done, Pallavi. That was wonderful. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. My name has been Professor Rich, and I hope that you have benefited greatly from this rather long stream on learning English. It's been an interesting one today. It's been quite fun. And yeah, have a lovely weekend. I know in some parts of the world it's Easter now, so happy Easter if you're celebrating Easter. Alleluia, he has risen, as they say in some parts of the world. Have a lovely time with your families and all the rest of it. For those of you not celebrating Easter, have a lovely weekend. And for anyone who has a bank holiday, such as us in England, have a lovely bank holiday. Have a lovely weekend. Stay happy. Stay fun. Keep learning. And I hope to see you next time, which will be Wednesday at 3 p.m. I have no idea what the topic is just yet. So have a lovely weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And I'll catch you next time. See you later.